Dr. Saunders, what is hypoglycemia and why do we need to know about it?
Okay, so Joe just taught me everything I know about hypoglycemia. He said, let me think. He said, hypo means low, and glycemia is sugar. So that means low blood sugar. Okay, anything else you want to know?
You have all three of us today.
Oh,
Joe,
oui.
Leslie, Dr. Saunders.
Toi.
It's a big
And
day
du
today.
toi.
I'll be toi.
That reminds me,
Okay.
actually, we had a discussion about doing a webinar in Spanish, I believe. Dr.
Oh,
Saunders would be the
not
only one who would be able to
French?
talk. But it would be good to do that, I think. So someday coming to a webinar near you, hopefully.
Si, señorita.
That's about as much as I got, but I've been practicing on Duolingo, so
Ooh.
get there.
There's only-
I actually
there's
have a
only-
minor in Spanish if you
There's
can
only
believe-
one thing you need to know. Just learn siéntate y cállate. And that's all you need to know.
that be quiet.
Siéntate y cállate.
Siéntate y cállate. Sit
Siéntate
down
y
and
cállate.
shut up.
I'd be quiet. See, I did know something. This is good. All right. Okay. In all seriousness, we are glad that you guys are here. Today we're talking about type 2 diabetes. And so those of you on YouTube, hello. You may be catching the replay, but that's all right. If you see anything that you're interested in or you want more information about, there is a link right there that you can click to get. It'll direct you to bartonwebinar.com. There's also a buy now button that'll take you right to our store. So we're excited that you guys are here. We have been filling these webinars every week, which tells us that you guys want to ask questions. You're excited that Dr. Saunders is here to teach and answer questions that you have, because how often are you able to just hop on a free chat with a medical doctor who can address the questions that you have?
You get what you pay for.
Every time. But it's very difficult to do that. And so this webinar has just been amazing for so many of you. And I love this because I get to learn as well. And I also get to hear the stories about all the lives that have been changed by following our diabetes solution kit, implementing the advice that's given on these webinars. And it's just so cool. In fact,
Hey, I had a patient. This week I had a patient who found my office through doing the diabetes solution kit. So he started the diabetes solution kit, and he's doing great. His hemoglobin A1C was 7.1, and now it's 6.5. So he's gone from diabetic to non-diabetic, and he's lost weight, and he's doing really well. And here's the thing: like, everyone around him is saying, "You can't do that. That's a scam. That doesn't work." And I'm like, dude, just show them the numbers. We just redid his tests, after 3 months, and he's no longer diabetic. And they're like, well, you still have to be on your medications. No, you don't have to be on your medication. It's like these people can't get around the fact that he doesn't have diabetes anymore. It's crazy.
That is so awesome and so encouraging. That's what we love too. We have people on this webinar right now. I can see some of our participants that are hopping on who have shared their stories and have, it's varied. Everyone's a little bit different. And so, quick disclaimer, we are not I'm not a medical doctor. Joe is not either, but Dr. Saunders is, but he is
I'm not a medical doctor, but I play one on TV.
He plays one on the webinars. But he is not your medical doctor. And so that's just our disclaimer. Everyone's different. Consult with your
not your doctor. Yeah.
Oh, weird. This could be a rough webinar. I can tell. We got a lot. We have three of us haven't been together for a while, so we're just excited. Yes. Okay, but today our topic is hypoglycemia, and this comes up often. We talk about fasting. We talk about lowering your blood sugar numbers. And so this having too low of numbers comes up sometimes from people. They're asking questions. What's too low? Is it okay to feel this way? And so we are going to do a deep dive into this today. Feel free to ask your questions. Post those in the Q&A, Facebook comments, wherever you're watching, post those. We'll do our best to get to them while we are live. So what else am I missing? bartonwebinar.com for any information that you want about these webinars. And guys, tomorrow at 12 noon Central, Dr. Saunders and I, along with our friend Cheryl, will be starting a brand new webinar on how to keep your heart healthy. And this has been in the works for a while. We've had so many people ask questions about heart health. And so this has come from your desire to learn more. And so we're so excited about that. If you're on this webinar, you want to watch tomorrow, you can do so. Hop on bartonwebinar.com, sign up for that webinar. You'll get a reminder just like you do for this one. But 2 webinars per week, guys. That's pretty awesome. So lots of good information, and it's free. So
10 a.m. Pacific.
Yes. Okay. I think that's it. Dr. Saunders, what is hypoglycemia and why do we need to know about it?
Okay, so Joe just taught me everything I know about hypoglycemia. He said, let me think. He said, hypo means low, and glycemia is sugar. So that means low blood sugar. Okay, anything else you want to know?
I believe I accredited that to Greek, but it's actually probably Latin.
Okay. All right. So low blood sugar. And why is that important? Because if you have type 2, if you have type 1 too, if you have any type of diabetes, the problem is sugar. And most of the time, the blood sugar is high. And you're always talking about your blood sugar is too high, blood sugar is too high, your hemoglobin A1C is high. And it's always about high. But what about low? And is that a problem? Well, probably I'm the only one you're going to hear this from. And that low blood sugar isn't really as much of a problem as a lot of people say it is. You don't want to be in the 30s. You don't want to be in the 20s. That's when you go into a coma. Not a good thing to get that low. But people who were in the 50s and 40s who are saying, oh, I feel terrible. I got a headache. I feel fatigue. I feel weak. I don't feel good. And I checked my blood sugar and it was 55. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's not bad, actually. And there's a good reason for that. Because first of all, hypoglycemia is relative. If you have your blood sugar is like always 200, and you're always in this range of like 190 to 200, and then you go on the diabetes solution kit, and you're doing that program exactly right, and your blood sugar drops down to 110. 110 is high. It's still too high. And yet, you drop down to 110, and you're going to say, oh, I feel horrible. I don't feel good. You know, I don't have any energy. I can't think straight. I feel like I got to go to bed or I got to eat something because you're hypoglycemic relative to the amount of blood sugar you're used to. Why does that happen? It's because our biological systems get used to everything that happens. So your brain has a blood-brain barrier. You can only get sugar across there if you have a glucose transport protein that reaches in and grabs it and pulls it into the brain. And then you get another reach it in, and these proteins are reaching out, grabbing sugar and pulling it into the brain. Well, when you have high blood sugar all the time, you have very few of these glucose transport proteins. So there's only a few of them reaching in occasionally to bring sugar into the brain. Why? Because there's plenty of sugar out there. So you don't need a lot of those proteins to bring sugar into the brain. What happens if you suddenly drop your blood sugar on the other side? Well, now there's very few of these little proteins and there's not a lot of sugar over there. So now your brain's getting really low blood sugar. So it's the brain that's the problem, that's getting really low blood sugar. So that's why you feel bad when your blood sugar drops into the normal range or even a little bit high, but it's a lot lower than you used to have it. So what do you do about that? Don't do what the doctor says. The doctor says that you need to drink orange juice or something to get your blood sugar back up. No, don't do that, because think about that. If you drop your blood sugar down, then your blood-brain barrier is going to go, oh my gosh, we don't have enough sugar. So we're going to have to make more of these glucose transport proteins. So now there's there's a whole bunch of the glucose transport proteins because they need to get sugar into the brain, and there's not enough sugar out here anymore. And that's exactly what happens. It's been proven in rat studies where they took diabetic rats, their blood sugar is always high, and they brought them down to hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, and it was around 40, and they kept them there for 3 days. 4 days. The fourth day, they were up running around and doing rat-like things. They weren't like laying around all hypoglycemic anymore. They checked the blood sugar, they're still 40. They're 40 and they're acting like normal rats. Why? Well, they did a biopsy of the blood-brain barrier and they found 10 times the number of glucose transport proteins bringing sugar into the brain. It takes a few days. It takes a little while. It's not something that instantly you get those proteins. You have to turn on the genes, make the proteins, make a bunch of subunits, put them together, and then transport them to the blood-brain barrier, and then have them start working. So there's a process that has to go on to build these proteins and allow them to get sugar into your brain. So hypoglycemia is a good thing. It's something that you actually need. So what should you do when you get hypoglycemia? Well, I always tell people push through it, because like I fast a lot, and when I fast, I used to, when I first started, I would get hypoglycemia all the time. One time, I was in front of a crowd doing a big presentation to a large group of people, and I passed out. And there was someone right there, grabbed my hand, and I was like almost on the floor, passed out from hypoglycemia. And then I came to it quickly within a couple of minutes. And everybody's like, "Oh, what happened?" He passed out. And I got, no, just a little hypoglycemic. I've been fasting for 3 days. And then I went on with the presentation. And I've done that more than once way in the past. I used to work at a nursing home and I had to lay down on the floor. Everybody's walking by. Why is the doctor laying on the floor? Because I didn't want to, fall and hit my head. So I was really hypoglycemic. So I laid down on the floor. It happens. And now it doesn't happen to me anymore at all. I can eat and then not eat, and I can go for 3 days and I don't even notice it. I get a little hungry sometimes. Oh yeah, I haven't eaten in 3 days, but I don't even notice it because the body automatically switches to fat burning metabolism, and I don't even get the sugar can drop down, but I'm fine. I don't feel it at all because I have more glucose transport proteins. So when you get hypoglycemic, lay down, take it easy. Don't push through and stand up and fall over and crack your head open. I actually had a patient do that. He was doing a 30-day water fast. He got to day 14 and he got up too fast and he fell over and hit the edge of the piano on his head and ended up in the ER getting stitches in his forehead. So don't do stuff like that. If you're feeling dizzy, do what I do. Just lay down on the floor and just stay there for a minute. And then when you feel better, you can get up. Hypoglycemia is helpful for you to get the sugar into your brain. It will prevent you from getting Alzheimer's disease, diabetes type 3, dementia. The number one cause of dementia is a metabolic dementia from not having enough glucose transport proteins to get sugar into your brain. So how do you get those glucose transport proteins? By having hypoglycemia. So you'll never hear this anywhere else. If you go into your endocrinologist and ask, well, should I get hypoglycemia? Oh, never. It's horrible. That's where people die. And totally, if you're 30 or 20, definitely have some orange juice or something. If you're way down there, it means you're using too much insulin, by the way. So don't allow yourself to get that low. But if you're just, a little feeling fatigued and dizzy and you need to rest, that's fine. And especially, it's fun if you have one of those continuous glucose monitors. Then you can look at it. My my father-in-law's diabetic, and he came to visit for a wedding, and ate a little too much sugar at the wedding, and so he gave himself extra insulin, and it dropped down too low, and we could totally see it on the monitor. Ooh. We had to call the paramedics. They had to give him a shot of glucagon. Anyway, so hypoglycemia, there's relative hypoglycemia. So if you're normally 200, you're going down to 110, that's relative hypoglycemia, and you might feel bad. That's fine. Don't even worry about that. And then the next level is if you're on phase 1 and you start getting into the 60s and 70s and you start feeling it, that's perfectly fine too. That's great. That's where you're going to start increasing those glucose transport proteins. But if you're getting into the 40s, 30s, 20s, absolutely, you've got to do something about that. So, and that means like taking in some sugar. So that's hypoglycemia in a nutshell. The Latin form, low sugar.
Awesome. Good information. We're getting a lot of questions that are coming in on Facebook. I have some emails. We also have Q&A. So we're going to dive right in here, guys, and start asking some of these. Okay. First of all, I'm just going to tell you, we have a message from Holly on Facebook, and she says, my A1C in 6 months after starting your program has gone from 7.1 to 5.5.
Wow. See, she's non-diabetic. Non-diabetic. That's
Awesome.
a cure. That's a cure. Officially.
Joe, actually, Joe, I have mine right here. Here it is. For those of you who don't know, we're talking about the diabetes solution kit. This is what a lot of people are saying when they start our program. They're talking about this, and this is the bread and butter of reversing your type 2. I can see I have some questions coming in where people have said, hey, I'm using this pill and it's just not working. That's because this is what you need. So that's the quick version of it. But if you hear us talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or low carb, et cetera, it's all the information. We're talking about the diabetes solution kit, and you can find that at bartonwebinar.com. I know Joe posted the code is webinar 25. That will save you 25% on that site. So anyway, okay, back to these comments and questions. I just wanted to mention that this is what we're talking about when we talk about the program or the diabetes solution kit. It is this. You can get that. If you don't have that, you can get it within minutes, within, I don't know, 2 minutes, let's say, in a PDF form. So you can have it in your hands. You can begin to implement these changes today. If you want the paper copy, we can mail that to you for an additional charge. Okay, Rosalind says, hi, Dr. Saunders. I love this. She's always on Facebook. You hop
I
on
love
the
Rosalind.
all the time.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I was doing a lot of fasting, but also on nerve pills for pain from stenosis. I, of course, didn't take it, and I found out I was in a lot of pain. I was enjoying every bit of fasting. I was trying to lower my A1C. So now I'm trying to find my way through all of this after completing the pain shots. What would you suggest or recommend?
Oh, start if you have neuropathy. The first thing to start with is Nervala. Nervala is 2 different vitamins. One is vitamin B1, which is and it's a special fat-soluble form called benfotiamine, and then the other one is alpha lipoic acid. And these are proven to reverse diabetic neuropathy individually, separately, and then the 2 of them together. We've had a lot of people come on and say, oh yeah, I had neuropathy. In fact, I got my dad on that now because he doesn't have diabetes, he has pre-diabetes and neuropathy. So, and that's often the case where before you ever get diabetes, you already have neuropathy. We talked about that when we did the neuropathy program. And so start with Nervala. And then, but the key, remember, because it doesn't take high blood sugar or high hemoglobin A1C to cause the neuropathy, it's high insulin. Because of that, you can't get sugar across the blood-brain barrier, which it includes all the nervous system. So, so the next important thing is to decrease your insulin resistance, and that's what phase 1 is all about. So do the phase 1 of the program.
One thing I'm going to mention too, we have a lot of you who've been on this webinar many times. And if it ever comes up that you're wondering maybe about dosing or questions about certain supplements, if you go to bartonnutrition.com, we added videos to every single product where Dr. Sutters talks about that how to take it, why it's important, etc. So really good site for you guys. Of course, you can order your products there as well. But if you have questions about your supplements, that's a great place to go. So bartonnutrition.com, you'll find all the things. But there's also probably, I'm going to double check. Hopefully it's there, a video. Uh-oh, there it is. There's his smiley face. Okay. So bartonnutrition.com, if you wanted to look up Nervala, you'll find all the information about it. So there you go. Let's see, more questions. Oh, Connie says, I want to shout out that I took my glucose just a couple of hours ago and it read 85 and it hasn't been in that range for 35 years.
Wow, good work. That's normal.
Wow. That is
That's normal,
awesome.
definitely.
So fun. I mean, talk about making your day.
Yeah.
All right. Roger said, that's a great testimony. I wish it was mine. And he also has a question here. It says, been using Synachroma for 3 weeks now, 1 pill a day with breakfast. I'm somewhat discouraged because I haven't seen any positive difference whatsoever, appetite or blood sugar. My blood sugar number for the last 3 weeks are actually higher. I think I need to take another pill with dinner. Would it be okay to take 2 pills a day versus 1? Concerned about the second pill because that will also increase my vitamin D. My doctor currently has me taking 50,000 units once weekly on Saturdays.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So if that vitamin D is vitamin D2, then you can also take the vitamin D3. That's okay. So it is okay to take it twice a day. But here's what I'm going to tell you. And this, remember, this applies to everyone. And that is, there is no reason to consider your blood sugar is going to drop down because you're taking Synachroma or any pill at all, even like metformin or a diabetes medication. That's not their purpose. The purpose of Synachroma is to give you the nutrients that you need to process sugar properly. And a lot of people are missing these nutrients, and people can get diabetes from just having a chromium deficiency and for no other reason. So, and chromium deficiency is fairly common. So I put in, this is what we tested for. This is what people are missing. And especially if they have type 2 diabetes. So that's what's in Synachroma. The cinnamon is helpful to regulate. Okay, that's something for regulation. But the vitamin D, vitamin K, chromium, selenium, vanadium, those are just to help you get the nutrients that you need so you can process sugar properly. It does not lower blood sugar. So that's not its purpose. Just want to make that clear. What you really need is phase 1 of the program. So don't take the pill, take phase 1 of the program.
All right. Connie said, wanted to do a fast, but my doctor, because of my former high numbers and being on Ozempic, doesn't want me to. Why?
Okay, so in medical school, we were told never let anybody fast, because if they do, it'll probably cure the illness and then they'll get off medications and it'll be terrible for us. So it's bad for business for any doctor to recommend fasting. So they're not going to do it. And we were specifically told in medical school, do not tell anyone to fast. Because, and for hundreds of years, you can go back 100 years, there was a book written by a Pulitzer Prize winning author named, what's his name?
We're talking about the fasting cure?
Yeah. Sinclair,
yeah,
Upton Sinclair. Yeah. Upton Sinclair wrote a book. He wrote the one called The Jungle that everybody reads, but nobody reads his other book, which is pretty good too. And that is The Fasting Cure. And that was before there were antibiotics, before there was modern medicine, before there was any of the treatments that we have. There was no MRI scans or CT scans or insulin. It didn't exist. All of that stuff didn't even exist when he wrote this book, The Fasting Cure. And it would cure just about everything. So because of that, ever since they started medical school, they're all of the books say, don't let anybody fast because it'll cure everything.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Royce says, Dr. Scott, a friend of mine has seen the changes that your program has made in my diabetic condition. She had breast cancer and they removed 5 nodules and then chemo for almost a year. Now she has a diagnosis of triple negative cancer, and she wants to know if there's another treatment besides the chemo that they want to put her back on to address this. She's not sure she can live through another chemo and is begging for other advice. Can you help?
Okay. General advice for cancer. Anybody who gives you advice for cancer is either telling a lie or they're going to get cut off the air and get their license revoked, and anything bad that they can do to you, they'll do to you. You just can't cure cancer. It's too big an industry. It's too big to fail. It's a bigger industry than the car industry. So anybody who tries to cure it has to suffer the consequences. And there's a lot of consequences for that. I've known some of my friends are dead because they were curing cancer. So here's the problem. You have a breast cancer that you already had chemotherapy and maybe even radiation therapy. And so now you have a recurrence and they want to do chemotherapy again. What they're not telling you is that cancer you currently have is 300 times more resistant to the chemotherapy than it was the first time. So essentially useless. So they're going to offer a useless treatment because there's nothing else they can do. So this is a common occurrence. If you look across the board at cancer, you see cancer happens, they carve it out, they cut it out, they radiate it, and they give chemotherapy, and it's quiet for a while. And then about 5 years later, it pops up again. And then they say, well, it worked last time, let's try that again, but it never works, and they die from it anyway. So the best I can say is that's what the research shows. The research shows the number 300, I didn't make it up. That's actually UCLA research that showed that the secondary cancers, the recurrent cancers, are 300 times more resistant to radiation and chemotherapy than the original cancer was. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you have to do something else, whatever that is, So if you have to get it surgically removed, then that's a reasonable thing to do. There's been some really good research out of USC by Walter Longo, and of course you're gonna laugh because I didn't make this up. I'm just doing the research, right? I'm just the messenger. Don't hurt me. That if you fast for 3 days, so you fast for 2 days and then get high dose vitamin C, so about 50 grams intravenous vitamin C. You fast for 2 days, you get IV vitamin C, and then fast for 1 more day afterward. So it's a 3-day fast with an IV vitamin C on day 2. Is 3 times better, 300% better than chemotherapy for breast cancer. And here's the kicker: it makes you better, you feel better, you don't get any nausea, you don't lose your hair, and you're functional, like totally functional. So I would say that I would try something like that. And there's a ton of other things you can do, but just so that you know, there's better options than chemotherapy after that.
All right. This is good. Joby says I have synchronoma and and the bottle says to take 1 capsule each day. Can I take 1 twice per day?
Yes, you can. So we made it to be a sufficient supply for once a day. But the higher dose would be 1 twice a day. And sometimes when you start off, you could start off with twice a day. And then after your blood sugars are normal, just go back to once a day.
All right. Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. So as we were sitting here, I took my blood sugar in my left middle finger and it read 108. And I'm like, oh, dang, because I haven't eaten for a little while. And I'm like, just for fun, I'm going to do it on my right hand. So I did my right hand 2 minutes later and it was 83 using the same machine. I'm like, okay, my blood sugar didn't drop that fast. Like, what's going on there?
That's really interesting. And many of you out there probably have noticed this. The machines are within 20%. So if you think of 100, that means between 80 and 120 is your actual number could be anywhere from 80 to 120 when it gives you a number of 100. So your two readings are within the scope of those little machines.
Interesting.
They're just sort of, they're not actual real numbers. They're just sort of to give you an idea of oh, your blood sugar's generally in the 200s. Oh, your blood sugar's generally in the 100. Oh, it's under 100. That kind of thing. So just give general ideas.
I do notice I do tilt a little bit more to the right. So my right side is lower than my left. So that probably is what's going on. Lower blood sugar.
You never know.
Let's see. I was gonna mention, I have a couple notes in here that I missed. Okay. This is, I don't know who this is, but Samsung something, their phone says, I went from 11.6 to 8.6 in 3 months.
Wow, good work.
Big change. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And then
11.6 is high. That's like an average blood sugar of close to 300. That's really high. Yeah.
And then Kathy said this is day 3 for her. Her first blood glucose in the AM was 225 on day 1, and today it's 174, down almost 3 pounds.
Wow, good work.
Yeah, that's encouraging. That's exciting when you start to see those changes quickly. That's also very motivating. So good for you. Okay. Criselda says I'm type 2. I've gone down on my A1C. Would my doctor be preparing to take me off some meds by putting me on phenobarbital first? I've never taken that, and she prescribed it and didn't tell me. I have not purchased it.
Phenobarbital, that's terrible. I hope you're not using that. That's a barbituric acid derivative that is used for epilepsy. It's a sedative, and it's kind of dangerous. That's it's the old crosstalks from the 1960s. That's what Marilyn Monroe died of, is barbituric acid. Yeah.
Maybe check into that and see what would be prescribing that to you.
Yeah, that's a weird prescription.
But also good for you for paying attention, looking at it. I just had a conversation with someone recently, and they were older. They had been sick and they didn't sound very good. They had a bad cough, and this person told me, yeah, my doctor gave me a bunch of medicines for it. I don't even know what they gave me, and they were just taking them. And I was like, you don't know what you're taking? So good for you for at least looking at it, seeing what it is, and asking questions. That's what we got to do.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Jorge or George have been taking Synachroma for 2 months. A1C was 7.6. On home test last week was 7.1. What else do I need to do?
Okay. Phase 1 of the program is really what that's all about. That's really, and so if you want to bring it down more, then just take out more carbs. Instead of 20, eat 10. In fact, we had somebody last week, right? She called in or sent in and said, yeah, I cut back on the carbs from 20 to 10 and did a lot better. You know what? It works.
It's not easy, but you can do it. Let's see. Samsung phone says, how do you handle nausea?
Okay, nausea. So we're talking about hypoglycemia today. And nausea is something that comes up, of course, because your blood sugar's low and your stomach. But usually it comes from because your brain isn't getting enough sugar, so your stomach gets queasy. So how do you handle it? Just let it be. You can take a little something, eat something. Sometimes moves things through. Eat a carrot, eat some nuts, that kind of thing. Just allow it to be, and it should go away pretty quickly. If you have chronic nausea, then there's something wrong there. There's something else wrong.
Okay. Tricia says, is it okay to take berberine with glipizide?
Oh, yeah. I just wrote an article on berberine. I don't know if Joe read it. I sent it to Joe. But berberine is like amazing. This stuff is I don't know. It's like one of those things. Like everybody should probably be taking it. It is better than metformin, and you better be careful if you're taking it with glipizide, because glipizide is something that can cause your blood sugar to get too low. And so if you have berberine giving you a normal blood sugar and then you add glipizide on, it's going to cause excessive insulin to be produced. And so you could get hypoglycemia, which is okay. It's just going to feel bad. But in that, if you start getting hypoglycemia, I would say the berberine is a much better treatment than the glipizide.
All right. And you can find our berberine. Is that our newest product? I think so. At bartonnutrition.com. Use that code webinar25 to save 25%. Here is what it looks like. Berberine. We have a guy on our team, Johnson. What does he always accidentally calls it? Burberry. He can't say it quite right. It's so funny. Burberry. I'm like, no, Burberry.
Burberry. Well, it comes from the barberry, the roots of the barberry plant. So maybe that's why he's mixing them up.
I think he's thinking of Burberry, like the brand, which is funny. But anyway, check that out. I think most everyone on our team, I think now is taking it or is trying it. So there's just so much information that Dr. Saunders has shared with us about berberine, and most of you who've been on the webinar know all of the benefits of it. So be sure to check that out.
Everything that has been studied, it's like, yeah, the blood pressure goes down, the cholesterol goes down, the heart disease gets better, some diabetes gets better, PCOS gets better, it cures cancer. It's like, what does this thing not do? It's awesome.
Awesome. All right. This is good. Let's see. Someone said regarding cancer, my sister was healed with many vitamin C injections. The doctor that discovered that was killed. His wife helped my sister. Don't know if you can share this or not. Well, I don't even know who you are, Anonymous. So
that's
okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it happens. I've seen it.
All right. It's terrible. All right. Debbie said, I went to my diabetes doctor and she asked me if I had any questions. I said, I know I have fatty liver, and what can I do about it? The doctor looked at me and said she knows nothing about the liver. I was shocked. What would you think?
Okay. Excellent question. Berberine helps fatty liver. I'm just going to say that for everything.
I know.
So fatty liver means that you have too much inflammation in the liver, and it can be caused by drinking alcohol. It can be caused by getting carbon tetrachloride from cleaning fluid in your food or eating it or whatever. It can be caused by ethylene glycol. There's a lot of toxins that can cause fatty liver. Well, one of those toxins is called fructose. And fructose is part of a sucrose, honey, maple sugar, agave nectar, and high fructose corn syrup. And so fructose is the everybody's loving fructose because it's the sweetest of all the sugars and it's low glycemic. It's not made into glucose. It doesn't raise your glucose levels. Well, the problem with that is it has to be processed like fat, and it is toxic in high doses and creates fatty liver. It can't be used for glucose. It's not it can be an energy source, but it has to be used as an energy source like fat. And then when you have high insulin, you block the use of fat in your liver. So now you're collecting all this stuff in the liver, and it's toxic, and it's creating fatty liver as if you were an alcoholic or something. So if you have type 2 and you have fatty liver, you've got to get off all fructose, period. Just none at all. Just avoid it entirely. And that means you can't have sucrose, which is table sugar, which you're not going to have anyway on phase 1, right? You're not going to have any of that stuff. And actually glucose is okay. So if you have, I don't know, what's fruit? Like apples are fairly high in glucose and relatively low in fructose. And what's really surprising is that fruits are very different in how much of each one they have. Like a mango has a ton of fructose in it and a little bit of glucose. And I think apple's just the opposite, has a little bit of fructose and a lot of glucose. And so anyway, so getting off of those sugars is like a primary important thing to regenerate your liver, because really all that's happening is those cells are dying and creating the fatty liver. It'll regenerate.
Okay, cool. Susan had emailed and said, I'm on phase 1. My blood sugar numbers are coming down. My fasting blood sugar is always highest. Even though my numbers are coming down, my set weight still isn't moving. I was going to try your suggested fast of no dinner and going to bed hungry. But every time I fast, my sugar numbers go up. I need to get my numbers down so I can be healthy and get lower cost life insurance. But I need to lose this weight because it's making me crazy that I can't do it no matter what I do or don't do. Please help me.
Okay, thank you. I am so grateful that you asked this question, because this is really important. We address it briefly in the book, in the Diabetes Solution Kit. But what's really important here is what you're saying is your blood sugar numbers are going up when you're fasting. What that means is you're taking glucagon, and your liver is making sugar because you're not eating it. So that's not where that higher blood sugar is coming from. It's coming out of your liver. And that's what you want. That's what has to happen. And that's how you cleanse out your liver. That's how you clean it out. You want the blood sugars to go up. So pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Don't worry about your blood sugar going up, because that's not coming from food. So it's coming out of your cells that are overstuffed with sugar, and they're like actually you're cleansing those cells out of this glycogen that is stored inside there and just filled up with the sugar, and allow that to happen. So fasting is the single best thing you can do, especially in your case.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Would you please talk about Ozempic? It's being advertised for both type 2 diabetes and weight loss.
I know. Actually, I'm going to admit this because I have a patient who she wanted Ozempic. It's an injection. It's a peptide hormone. It's a peptide hormone, kind of like insulin is a peptide hormone. So you have to inject it. You can't take a pill. And so she called me and she said, I really want to lose weight. I'm having so many problems, and a friend of mine took Ozempic and it worked, and I want to try it. And I'm like, no. She calls back. She said, please. I said, no. She calls back like a week later and says, please. And I'm like, okay, fine. And so we went on and said, okay, what are you going to eat? What do you do? We went through this whole program and developed it out. And she started taking Ozempic, and she lost like 10 pounds in the first week, and then another 5 pounds in the next week. It kind of like goes fast and then slows down. And so she's 15 pounds down. She's feeling great. She's doing well. Her husband called me and he's like, dude, can I try this? I'm like, no, don't do it. Just go. Because her husband is actually diabetic. And I said, no, don't do it. Just do the phase 1 of the program. And he's like, oh, please, man, my wife, she's feeling so good. She's doing so well. I'm like, okay, fine. So I gave him a prescription, same thing, same deal. This is what you can eat, this is what you can do. It didn't help him at all. He didn't lose any weight on it at all.
Really?
So what does it do? Okay, so I looked it up. I'm like, what the heck? The way it works is the way a lot of medications work for losing weight, and that is it kind of makes you nauseated. It slows down your intestines. So if you've ever heard of, many of you have probably heard of morning sickness that women get when they're pregnant because their progesterone is going up, way up. And all that happens is the stomach slows down. Things don't move through very well. And so that's where the nausea comes in and goes, I can't eat anything, I'm nauseated. And some women actually lose weight during pregnancy because they're so nauseated all the time. So Ozempic works by slowing down, kind of like what progesterone does, slows down the intestines, slows stomach emptying, so that you don't feel like eating. You're like, I'm not hungry, I'm not gonna eat anymore. But you can overcome that pretty easily if you see something really tasty. So it's kind of funny that every time studies are done on weight loss, there is only one underlying cause of weight loss, only one. For all of the things that people have, there's only one cause of weight loss, and that is eating less. So when people get their stomach stapled, then their stomach is like 50 cc's. It's about this big, and that's all they can eat at one time. And so what do? They eat less. Of course they lose weight because they eat less. Ozempic injections, how does it work? They eat less. So I had a woman come into my office once, and she said, oh, I want to get the stomach staple. I want a referral to the weight loss doctor for a stomach stapling procedure. And I said, do you know what that is? And she goes, yeah, they make your stomach small, so you eat a small. I said, do you know how big your stomach is? And I said 50 cc's, and I showed her what 50 cc's is. So drink that. It's a little Dixie cup, the little teeny ones, and that's all you get, because your stomach's not any bigger, and that's all you can fit in your stomach. She goes, well, I could just eat less then. And I'm like, yeah. She came in 6 months later. I didn't even recognize her. She was 100 pounds lighter. I said, how did you do it? I just ate less. I said, what the heck? If I can only eat 50 cc's with the stomach staple, I'll just eat 50 cc's in a meal anyway. And that's what she did. And she really lost weight. Wow. So Ozempic, yes, it can work for some people. And one of the things that it does is causes you to make more insulin, so your blood sugar gets down, and that's why it's used for diabetes. But I don't recommend it. Wow. I think phase 1 is better.
Yes. And that's not even mentioning all of the side effects of it. We don't even know.
Oh, yeah. Lots.
Let's see. I do hear a lot about Ozempic, though. Let's see. How do you take berberine? Once or twice a day?
Oh, good question. Okay, so berberine is very short acting. You take like 500 milligrams as one capsule 3 times a day, and the 3 times a day gives you a pretty stable amount. So it depends on what you want to accomplish. If you take large amounts of berberine, they have some pills, like you can get other supplements out there that are like 1,500 milligrams, because that's what it seems to be about the right amount for a daily supply. But if you take all 1,500 at once, you have a spike and a drop. And that spike is high and often causes stomach upset. So people get nausea, they get sometimes vomiting, and gas and bloating, and their stomach slows down. And so actually, what's really funny, metformin does the same thing. Metformin can cause stomach upset if you take high doses, and so you just lower the dose. Well, that's the same with berberine, and it works in the same way, right, as metformin. So it's better to take berberine frequently. Smaller doses frequently is less likely to cause any stomach issues, and instead of taking like all 3 pills at once.
Okay, Good to know. How about, is it okay to take cinachroma, turmeric, and berberine at the same time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that was easy. Let's see, when fasting, do I take all my supplements and metformin? I'm considering fasting.
Okay, let me go back to the cinachroma, turmeric. Berberine and turmeric are synergistic in what was it, colon cancer, where berberine had a small effect, turmeric had a small effect, and the two of them together had like 3 or 4 times the effect of either one of them alone. So they work synergistically. So there is no problem. In fact, that's a really good idea to take turmeric and berberine together. Okay, now what was the next question? I'm sorry.
I'm taking all these notes for myself here, so 1 second. Let's see. When fasting, do I take all of my supplements and metformin? I'm considering fasting.
Oh, good question. Excellent question. Okay. I would not recommend taking either supplements or medications during fasting, because while you're fasting, the blood sugar is going to drop, glucose is going to drop, and blood pressure is going to drop. And if you're taking a medication, you could push that down too low and just be miserable. So it's just better not to be on either medications or supplements while you're fasting. Think of the supplements as just food. And if you're taking a supplement, you're not fasting. So just stay off them.
Okay, let's see. Krish, welcome back. I'm currently taking 500 milligrams of berberine. Can I take 2 capsules to make it 1 gram per day? Alternatively, I think, can I take 500 milligrams each of berberine and L-carnitine? Thanks.
Yes.
Alternating, I think is what he said.
You can alternate L-carnitine, berberine, and they're okay together. They work very differently. L-carnitine helps your mitochondria, the energy, little bacteria in your cells that make the energy, use fat more efficiently. So L-carnitine is a great idea to take if you have type 2. And the berberine can be taken together. And if you're not like trying to keep your blood sugar down, you don't have to take berberine, 3 times a day, every day. If you took it once a day, that's fine. You can take a higher dose, but like I said, you get a spike and it drops, and you still have none for a long time, and that's okay. If it upsets your stomach, you may have to split it up, but otherwise it's fine.
All right. Okay, someone asked what episode this is. This will be 187. You can find the link to our YouTube channel at bartonwebinar.com, and that'll get posted soon. Let's see. Someone said Physio Omega DPA. Is this beneficial for type 2?
Yes. The omega-3 oils have been proven in several studies to improve blood sugar all by themselves, and just by lowering inflammation. So they used to think that berberine worked by lowering inflammation too, but it turns out, yes, it lowers inflammation, but also it activates AMPK, which is the adenosine monophosphate phosphokinase. It's the enzyme that turns on the fat burning metabolism, essentially. So the omega-3 oils, that specific one, DPA, fine.
Okay.
They're good.
Let's see, what was this? Okay, Victor says, I've been doing phase 1 for 3 months. My A1C has dropped from 7.8 to 6.2. But my overnight fasting still stayed at around 120. Are my cells still getting rid of excess glucose? What do you think I should do?
So that's an indication that you have insulin resistance, because in waking up in the morning, you haven't eaten anything. The body produces, or the adrenal glands produce cortisol. Cortisol makes you resistant to insulin. And so your blood sugar is going to tend to go up as your cortisol levels go up, because your liver puts out sugar even though you haven't eaten, right? So then what's the next step? The next step is to lower your insulin resistance. So what we have in phase 1 is to cut out the carbohydrates. But one of the issues there is that if you're eating a lot of fat can cause insulin resistance. So one of the ways to block that or prevent that is to have a very low fat diet. So you're like, wait a minute, what am I going to eat? Well, I put people on a very high fiber diet, and that works really well for lowering insulin resistance and getting your fasting blood sugar down to normal.
Okay. Well, guys, our time is up. This has been awesome. Dr. Saunders is going to go be with his patients. We'll try to answer a few more questions here if we are able, but we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Dr. Saunders, you're awesome.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It goes so fast, guys. There's so many questions and it's great. This is his world, so he's able to answer these quickly for us, and I just so appreciate him. So there are some specific kind of medical type questions that we won't be able to answer, but please hop on next week again, and we'll do our best to get to some of those. But let me see if there's anything on here that we can answer.
We could answer those, but they would be wrong answers.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it'd really benefit you, but
yeah, probably
it'd
not.
probably be annoying.
Hey, I have a question. Put it in the chat. What flavor fiber greens do you think would be better if you haven't tried it, or if you already have? Green apple or iced tea lemonade? Green apple or iced tea lemonade? Put it in the chat which flavor you would prefer. I am just curious. Iced tea lemonade is also like Arnold Palmer, which is like iced tea and lemonade. So, or green apple. I can show you right here. Here's our flavors. Green apple or iced tea lemonade. Yummy, yummy. We got the apple. Oh, this bottle got like
Funny.
pressurized. I think it was on an airplane. Iced tea lemonade or green apple. All right, we got green apple, green apple. I use green apple, iced tea lemonade, green apple. All right, I have and like the iced tea lemonade. This is great feedback. Thank you.
While those are coming in, I'm going to quick mention, let's see, somebody had asked, if I start berberine, do I stop metformin? And what Dr. Saunders will say, no, don't change anything. But what may happen is your numbers may be reduced. And so you will maybe have to go into your doctor and say, hey, my numbers are getting pretty low. I probably need to start taking less of this. Or what should I do? And let them tell you, you need to reduce your metformin. That's typically what happens. But don't just stop something. Just be paying attention to your numbers and work with your doctor.
Yes.
And if they tell you to stop the berberine, that's the wrong answer. Find a new doctor. Okay.
Eric wants to know which one is lower carb count. They're both the same. So they both have 1 net gram of carbohydrates. 1 net gram, and that consists of 5.4 total carbs, of which 4.4 is fiber. And yeah, that's how you get your net to 1. So it's very low, very friendly for people with insulin resistance and diabetes. However, Dr. Saunders will say he doesn't love this because it does have the taste of sweet. And some people that makes your insulin go up. So it's actually, we created it more for people with heart issues, especially because our new heart health product talks about how, increasing fiber is so beneficial. So
Leroy had said, I wish it would dissolve better. And I'm just I'll tell you something really quick. First of all, don't wait to drink it. Don't let it sit for a half hour and then try to go drink it. You will be disappointed. But that's any fiber drink. I've had fiber drinks for many, many years, and you don't want to do that ever. So there's one helpful tip. Also, you know what? I have a really nice handheld frother, and I mix everything with that thing, and it is just perfect. You don't need to do it that way, but that's just what I do. but just shaking it in a shaker cup, maybe a couple ice cubes or something is kind of nice. But yeah, just don't let it sit. Just drink it right away.
And I think it's like if you put it in a shaker bottle with ice cubes, that's like it dissolves or gets really very easy to drink and not chunky or anything like that. So
And it's cold that way too. You don't want to warm.
no.
I don't like it warm, but
Yep, frother is a good idea. So yeah, webinar 25, we have iced tea lemonade on bartonnutrition.com. I do believe should be there. How many
videos?
how many cups of greens equals a scoop of powder? That is a great question. I need to find that out, Kathy. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, good question.
It'd probably be like how many fruits and vegetable servings would be in there. So I don't know off the top of my head.
Let me look through some of these questions real quick here. Okay, Roger wanted to have kind of a hot toddy to help with a cold. He's adding some ginger root, lemon, and a little bit of local honey. You know what? Everyone's so different that that's up to you. I think that'd be a personal decision. Dr. Saunders would probably say skip the honey. But there are benefits to honey too. And so you got to kind of make that decision for yourself. Let's see. Joy said my A1C was 6.3 in January. I started phase 1 this past Monday with a fasting blood sugar of 78. And after meal 117 and 109. So I took 40 grams of starch for phase 2. So far, my weight was dropped from 96.7 to 95.1. My weight was dropped. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask. Maybe I'm missing something on that one. Can I take berberine and metformin together? Yes. Okay, I think that's it. Just a reminder, guys, this is episode 187. It will be posted on our YouTube channel if you're watching right now. Again, if we're talking about any of these supplements or the diabetes solution kit or anything that we've mentioned that you're interested in, you can click that buy now button. If you don't see a buy now button, there is a link in the description that you can click that will take you to bartonwebinar.com or to our store. Use code webinar25. You'll get 25% off all of our products. And then come back tomorrow because Thursdays at 12 noon Central, we have our Healthy Heart webinar. Episode 1 is tomorrow, and we're super excited about it, guys. It's going to be really good. It is not the same as the diabetes solution kit. Okay. It is very different. And there'll be a lot of different recommendations. The food stuff will be different. And so I have some studying to do actually today and tomorrow before we start that webinar because it's just very different. So I'm really excited. I get a lot of emails from people who have questions about what they can be doing. And some of you, want a healthy heart and you have type 2. And so come to the webinar tomorrow, tell a friend, it's free. And you get to ask Dr. Saunders questions again. So that's a win-win.
Yeah, share bartonwebinar.com with friends, anyone that you know that might have heart issues or whatever. We'd love the support for episode 1. Let's get as many people on there as we can. It's going to be great. I'll be watching from the sidelines.
Yes. Roy, you have that time, 11 Mountain Time, correct?
Noon Central, 1 Eastern.
Yes. 10 Pacific.
All right.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Come back next week. This is great as always. Joe, good to see you.
You too.
We're going to hit nearly 90 degrees today. So I'm pretty excited about it. Here in South Florida. We had snow last week. So actually we had snow like 3 days ago. So
yeah,
the beauty of our part of the world, I guess. Anyway, we'll see you guys again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.